The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have banned the new SpiderMan spiderverse movie for apparently featuring a trans flag in it. I think we need the Muslim version of the "Why are you gay" thing. You know, every time we do the Ugandans, we do, "Why are you gay?" We need a Muslim version. I don't know. Habibi, why are you gay? I don't know, whatever. But you know what? To this I say, this might be controversial, but good for them. And I'm serious about that, okay? Because if it goes against their values as a country, then I absolutely support it, them doing what they want to do and reflecting what they believe as a country. And to be totally honest with you, I actually wish that more non-Western countries around the world would stand up against the forces of liberal imperialism and assert their freedom of religion and assert to a degree, right, what they actually believe. So I say to that, absolutely, you know, good for Dubai, good for the United Arab Emirates. It is their country. It is their choice what they want to do with their country. And I know the exact thought exercise that is about to occur here, right? Vince, I get it. You're against the message or the thing in the movie, but what about free speech, right? This is what they're going to say. How can you say you're okay with them doing this when you support, shouldn't you be about free speech? Well, here's my thing, okay? First of all, who are we to talk about free speech? Not just as America, but as the Western world in general, because that's really what this is, right? It's the West versus the Middle East. So how is the Western world going to lecture the Middle East on free speech when we, in Germany, a Western world, right? You saw this, you may have seen this video in Germany, when European countries, Western countries, are forcibly removing Muslim kids from their parents. They're literally using their child protective services to take Muslim kids away from their parents because their parents do not believe in the ideology of transgenderism. So that's the Western world's idea of free speech. They're actually actively stomping a lot on Muslims' free speech and Christians' free speech, obviously. But we, as the Western world, get mad at the UAE for banning a movie, right? We're taking kids from their parents, and we're mad that, you know, this country wants to ban a movie. Get over it. And then furthermore, you know, about the point of free speech, what about it? What about free speech? Really, and I mean that. But before we get into that, we need to talk really quickly about your economic future because, folks, unless you are a billionaire Arab playboy over in the United Arab Emirates, you may be able to tell our economy is kind of screwed right now, which is why you need to protect your retirement with a precious metals or gold IRA from Noble Gold Investments. Essentially what that is a generic retirement account, except instead of being backed by some random stocks that you don't really understand or BlackRock, whatever it is. Instead, your money in your retirement is backed up by actual physical gold and silver. That's what a gold or precious metals IRA is. And as you may know from human history, right, gold and silver are history's and humanity's most time-tested and stable assets. So go right now and check out VinceDaoGold.com. That's my affiliate link. Our friends over at VinceDaoGold.com. Put in your information and look into protecting your retirement with a gold or precious metals IRA at VinceDaoGold.com. Do not wait, because the UAE does not have a First Amendment, okay? Yeah, maybe if this were America, maybe you'd have an argument. But part of the reason I say it's their country, they have the right to do what they do. A lot of countries don't have the First Amendment. Even a lot of Western countries don't really have free speech, right? You know, the UK does not have a First Amendment. Most European countries don't have a First Amendment. So if free speech is a concept that is actually not central to their society, which it is not. And you know, you can comment on maybe it should be like that, maybe it shouldn't, but it's just not really an idea in their society that they decide they want to be this more rigid theocracy. You know what? Hot take. I'm actually completely okay with that. And I think before we as the Western world are going to virtue signal or lecture the Eastern world about anything, maybe we should stop, doing what we are doing to children. And I mean that. And I know people are going to misconstrue this and they just don't understand it, but I'm serious when I say it does not actually keep me up at night that the Middle East does not respect freedom of speech. I mean that. I do not particularly care. Why? Because unlike the people who told us for so many years that we needed self-determination in Africa, self-determination in all the former European colonies, that being American liberals, the American left, right? I actually believe in self-determination. I actually believe that nations are different. Not every nation is like the United States. Not every nation has a people or a heritage or a society like the United States. And hence, it is arrogant and blind and naive and just overall ridiculous to suggest that the same style of government and the same exact values, especially pertaining to something like representative government, democracy, free speech, are able to translate to the entire world. And therefore, and I said this when we pulled out of Afghanistan, the Taliban took over the country in 2 seconds and were crowned as heroes by most of the people. And a lot of Americans were confused, like, but I thought we were the good guys. Why are so many Afghans like, yes, let's go Taliban, right? Why is that happening? Because different people are different around the world. And therefore, different systems of government are needed for different countries. This is why, you guys sometimes get mad at me for this, but this is why I say, I have no principled moral objection to monarchy, because I say to that, the nations are different. And therefore, if monarchy works in a certain country, then good for that country. I don't think you have a moral obligation to embrace free speech or democracy or whatever it is in XYZ country around the world if that's just not how the country ought to be governed. And I think that's what you see in the Middle East, right? So this is all to say that you look at the Middle East. They have had this Islamic theocracy thing going, the Sharia law thing going, right, for thousands of years. I look at that and say, am I a Muslim? No. Do I agree with Sharia law? No, I'm a Christian. But if they decide as a people that they want to keep their 1,000-year heritage instead of caving to liberal imperialism, who am I to tell them not to do that? Okay, who am I to tell them that? I'm actually all for it. I say in many ways, okay, if that's your ancient heritage, if that's your history, in the same way we look at what they're doing to our heritage and say we need to stand up and protect our history, if that's their history, then I say go and defend it. Okay, I'm all for it, right? And that's why I say, do I personally like the First Amendment in this country? Yeah, but do I have any particular moral objection to Muslim countries deciding, look, this is your values, America? Sadly, it's true. There's a reason why the Middle East calls us the great Shaitan, the great Satan, but it's true. Okay, this is your country's values, this freaking all this alphabet nonsense. But we are a Muslim country, so we're not going to allow this stuff, right? This goes against our values as a society. If they want to decide, well, then that means this degenerate liberal imperialism that we are trying to force on them. Understand that, right? We are trying to force on them. If they decide they want to say no to it, why should I lose sleep over that? Why, as a Westerner, should I particularly care? In fact, to a degree, I have to sympathize with it. I do. Not because I'm a Muslim, not because I agree with Sharia law, but because it's like, I have this belief system. I kind of recognize this is what our country used to be. And I see the forces of woke liberalism, whatever you want to call it, destroying this part of the world. And so they have their values, they have their history, and Western liberalism is trying to do the same thing. And they literally just say, no, Habibi, not welcome. I kind of, like, to a degree, I have to say, I sort of respect that. I do respect that. And, as much as we go back and forth, and as much as, I disagree with Muslims on a lot of things, I will say, now that I'm starting to see this stuff happen, mainly in the Middle East, right? They're just like, no, we're not going to platform that in our country. To that, I say, go ahead, good for you. We're not going to let Westerners come into our country and wear the pride flag stuff at the World Cup. Good for them, self-determination. And then some places, even in the West, I mean, it's still, it's a slow movement. It's a minority movement at the moment, but I will give credit on that front, right? You see what's going on in Dearborn, Michigan. They're protesting against the stuff in the school boards. A lot of that stuff in Europe, right? They're protesting against this alphabet movement. I say as a Christian conservative, look, I'm not going to go so far as to call us best friends, because, there's a lot there. There's a lot of, bad blood from past history still to be sorted out or whatever. But I will say, in this moment in our history, right, when the main force of liberalism or whatever it is the chief force that threatens Christian civilizations and Muslim civilizations, I have to say, I absolutely welcome the help of the Muslims in this fight, right? I don't view, and sorry, George Bush, sorry, I know that offends the old school neocons who still believe that our moral imperative as Americans is to liberalize the Middle East. But I actually look at it and say, well, look, we disagree on a lot. We don't want the same thing for society. And so that's why we need to be careful about, where our paths diverge. But fundamentally, you are against this stuff as Muslims. We are against this stuff as Christians, right wingers, all that different stuff. To a degree, we like to see it. We like to see it. So good for the UAE, good for Saudi Arabia. Do not let the forces of this country tell you otherwise. It is your country. I absolutely support your right to decide to do what you want. Hey guys, Vince Dao here. Hope you enjoyed that clip from the Vince Dao show. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And be sure to check out the Vince Dao show live every weeknight here on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It is a great show. Many are saying this.